Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and, yeah, we're going back to a modern knife. Kind of been flip-flopping, traditional, modern, fixed blade, modern. So, in this video, I'll be taking a look at another Spyderco. Now, this is a very interesting knife. I'm sure some of you have seen and some of you haven't. And for the record, here it is with the cat box. So it's a very similar size knife, almost identical. But they could not be any more different. So, you've got the standard Spyderco box right here. This one's made in Italy. And, of course, you get your education sheet about the design. And you can read that if you'd like. And then, of course, you have included your warranty card and a bit more information about the design. There's a lot to it. But there's that too. And here is the knife. Now, this is the Spyderco Urban Lightweight, and this is the Sprint Run version of it, with Coyote Brown FRN handles, scales if you're going to be really picky, and a very interesting and quite uncommon steel, AEBL. Now, for those who've never seen AEBL steel, it's commonly seen as a stainless, I believe, 510-50. I'm not sure. And it's commonly associated with straight razors for being an incredible steel for edge retention above all else and ease of sharpening. So, let's take a look at this quickly. Keep in mind, the cat, which was my previous and first Spyderco, included an FRN, sorry, not an FRN, a G10 handle. And G10, while it may look similar, is quite different from FRN. It has a lighter texture, while this one has a more aggressive texturing. Here, you can listen. There's a lot more sound to this one. But the cat, of course, is a very nice knife. I'll just leave that up here for now. But this is Coyote Brown FRN. I decided to go for the Sprint Run as opposed to the normal Urban because Coyote Brown is a more unique color than just black FRN, and it would look too similar to the cat. The steel on that was N690, which is slightly less interesting than AEBL. And then there's the fact that they had, these are limited edition because they're sprint runs, so when they sell out for good. And it was only 72 as opposed to the normal Urban, the non-limited edition one, which was 85. So you could pay more for a more boring, worse steel, non-limited knife. I don't get why you do that. These were on sale for a very good price. I bought it at Warriors and Wonders, of course. And it's a very nice knife, I must say. There were 20 of them left in stock, so for the other 19 people who may see this video and want one of these, you can find them at Warriors and Wonders. It's the best price I think I've ever seen them. But anyway, into the knife. Brown FRN handles here. No liners, which I actually kind of like. A solid steel back spring going the full length of the knife. Deep carry wire pocket clip, which is a very nice pocket clip, mind you. This is a very easy knife to disassemble. Just some screws. And being a slip joint, this is part of Spyderco's Slip It run of knives, which means that these are non-locking knives, legal in pretty much most places, except places that restrict one-hand openers, because this is still a one-hand open knife. So if you can't carry a one-hand open knife, you're out of luck. This is still illegal. But in like 90% of everywhere else, this is a very legal knife. That's one of the main selling points behind it. So, let's get into the fit and finish here. Why don't we? And this is my first Italy-made Spyderco. You can see the blade's a little bit offset, but it's pretty close. Gapping. Actually, there's pretty much no gapping here. It may look like there's the occasional gap, like a bit here and a bit here. It's not actually. It's kind of a way that the back spring sits. Back spring is pretty flush looking. Let's see that transition. That's a good transition, I must say. For a modern slip joint. This would still, in my opinion, fall under the gentleman's carry style. And that's a very broad term, I know. It gets a bit annoying. But I look at that as either a traditional knife, which is probably what most people think of it as, or just a very slim, non-threatening knife. Because if you pull this out, unless you're in a place where knives are absolutely restricted and forbidden, this shouldn't scare too many people. I mean, it's just a little knife. It's got, I believe, a 2¼ inch cutting edge. In fact, for the first time, I've actually taken the precaution of bringing along a ruler. So, this may not be the best ruler in the world. Let's just take a look here. Okay. So, you've got about just a little under a 2½ inch cutting edge and about almost 2¾ inch blade overall with the choil. So it's a reasonable size blade. This is UK legal. I do know that for a fact. And the handle is roughly alright, that's actually a pretty small handle there. So the handle, its overall length is 3¼ inches, about 3½, and the blade, the total length of the knife is spot on 6 inches. So the open length is 6 inches. That's a pretty good sized knife. The cat up here is, I believe, a tiny bit smaller. It's about 5.9 inches. So this is actually a little bit bigger. You probably wouldn't notice that. The blade shapes are actually vastly different. People may say, oh, well, it's the same leaf-shaped blade. Not actually. This one's a much pointier, almost spear point looking blade. I know the traditional people are going to freak out. I'm saying spear point not in reference to the spear point blade shape, but spear point in reference to a spear's point. It's got a very, very pointed tip right there. All the emphasis of the blade is just preparing for that tip. That is the main focus of the blade. While this one, it's not as prominent, and you can see that this one focuses more on converging to a tip, while this one doesn't. I don't know if I'm seeing that weirdly, but the blade shapes are different. This one has a more sharp curve up. So, yeah, they are indeed different. Once again, G10 versus FRN. This one has liners and this one does not. And this one's a slip joint and this one's a liner lock. They both have the same clip. So they're very similar. Anyways, this knife has a very nice slip joint action. Now, just take a listen to this. That's really nice for a slip joint. You can, of course, two-hand open it if you really want, but at that point, why don't you just buy a traditional? But, you know, you can use the Spyderco round hole. Just go like that. Very easy opening on this. No worries. And I think you can maybe Spidey flick this. It's definitely harder because they try making this so that you can't. This, for example, smooth as butter. This, because you have to get past that half stop, they call this a notch lock system, even though it's a slip joint, but they call it a notch joint. I guess that's the same. But, oh my gosh. Okay, you can actually flick this open. On this copy, you can flick it open, but it really hurts your finger. You have to put a lot of force to actually get that to fly out. Yeah, you can, but it probably isn't worth the trouble, because think about it. Is it any faster doing this than it is just going? I mean, not by much. It really won't make much of a difference. Also, one thing I would like to definitely bring up in this video. This thing, people may be like, oh, why would you want a slip joint when you could have a fast opening knife like a liner lock? Yes, well, let me just show you something. I'm not putting I'm not going slow on this one. I'm not opening it any slower. I'm opening them at the exact same time, and I'll be closing them at the exact same time. Watch how quickly these open. Okay, keep in mind, smooth liner lock versus slip joint. Which one do you think will be faster? Probably this one. Well, let's see. Keep in mind, not going any slower on this one. Look at that. That was almost identical. I don't even know if one was faster than the other. I think they were almost the same. Closing? Oh, well, this one's a liner lock. You can close it fast. That one's a slip joint. You have to close it slower. Well, let's see about that. Almost the same again. So, for the people who keep saying that this is somehow faster, even if I Spidey flick this, here, watch. They're still the same. They're still the same. I don't see why people keep going on about how a knife can't be a slip joint. You know, we can't like any of those Spyderco slippets. They're too slow. No, they're not. They're very, very useful. And they open just as fast. Maybe not as fast as like an assisted open, but Spyderco doesn't do assisteds, from what I remember. Anyway, ergonomics on this. This is a Sol Glesser design, I believe. That's the stamp right there. And that means it's going to be very comfortable and ergonomic. Also, I consider the Sol Glesser design Spydercos to be the classic Spydercos. Something about their look, they always look the most timeless. This looks far more classic, if you ask me, than this. I don't know why, it's just something about them. Anyways, half stops are very helpful. I think that this is a really nicely designed knife. This one, unlike the cat, has jimping. The cat's very comfortable, but it has no jimping. This one, up top, you've got the finger ramp. It's got jimping up here, and jimping under the choil for an incredibly comfortable cut. And even if you are using it to the point where it starts closing, your finger is going to be in the way. You can't close this. It's a natural lock. You cannot close this. I mean, unless you're willing to force it closed with your other hand, in which case you're just trying to take a finger off. What's wrong with you? But the edge on this is incredibly sharp. I'd say even sharper than the cat. Yeah, this one's BD1N steel. This one's AEBL, which is, from what I've heard, a better steel. Also, if you didn't already see this, this is a Maniago, Italy designed Spyderco. Well, made Spyderco. I believe this is made by Fox Knives in the same factory as Fox Knives, although don't quote me on that. I watched a Stefan Schmalhaus video on the Spyderco Squeak. The Spyderco Squeak is a smaller version of this, so it's an even smaller slip joint, and he said that the Squeak was made by Fox, and I think that the Squeak is made in the same factory as this one, so I guess if the Squeak is made by Fox, then so is this one. I just poked myself. So this knife, I would absolutely carry this. You've got a deep carry clip, Spyderco's one-hand open feature, a very secure knife. It doesn't feel like the kind of knife that'll close on your hand when you're using it. You got comfortable jimping and everything, good steel, great feel, perfect ergonomics. I couldn't ask for better. This is a really nice knife. I might have to do a follow-up on this video. I keep saying this about all my knives and I never do. But I should do a follow-up. Should carry this knife for a couple days and then this one. See which one I like better and come back and tell you, because these are very similar. But they are yet very different. G10 versus FRN, liner lock versus slip joint. BD1N versus AEBL, Taiwan made, Italy made. So there's a lot to compare here, and I'm excited to see which one's better. So, this has been the Spyderco Urban. Let me know what you think of this knife in the comments below. Do you own this? Do you want it? If you want it, head on over to Warriors and Wonders. You can find it there for $72 Canadian. Pocket clip is reversible, secured mechanism, one hand open, jimping, comfortable, good steel, made in Italy. I couldn't ask for better. This is a great knife. I'd actually go as far to say it's a 10 out of 10 knife, which is very rare. I don't normally give 10 out of 10s for most of my knives. Okay, maybe that's a bit generous. The one thing that holds me back from saying that is the fact that while it's comfortable, even for me, it's just a tad bit small here. I'd probably say this is a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. This is a 9 out of 10 knife for me. But still, I'd absolutely recommend. Go ahead and get one of these if you don't already own one. Let me know what you think of this knife in the comments below. And yeah, this has been the Spyderco Urban Lightweight Slip It Sprint Run version. And this is the Streaming Enderman, as always, signing off. Goodbye.